The sun was barely above the horizon when I noticed unusual tire tracks leading onto my ranch. My security cameras had caught movement earlier, but I hadn't expected it to be Karen from the HOA again. She had a habit of testing boundaries, but this time, she seemed more determined than ever. Apparently, she had convinced some neighbors to join her in investigating my property, claiming she had the authority to inspect every inch of my land. I grabbed my binoculars and surveyed the area. Sure enough, a small group of HOA members was wandering across my pastures, snapping pictures and poking around barns and equipment sheds. Karen, leading the pack, had her usual smug expression, clearly proud of her unauthorized adventure. I sighed, realizing that words alone wouldn't suffice. This was my property, and I needed to assert that fact in a way that would leave no doubt. I put on my boots, grabbed my sidearm, not for confrontation, but as a deterrent, and stepped outside. My K9, Titan, immediately picked up on my tension and positioned himself between me and the intruders, growling low and steady. Karen's group hadn't noticed me yet. I activated the PA system I had installed around the property for emergencies. "This is private property," I announced in a firm, commanding tone. "You are trespassing. Leave immediately or law enforcement will be contacted." Karen waved her hand dismissively, as if my warning were meaningless. She yelled back, "We have every right to be here. HOA rules allow us to inspect property for compliance." I let out a slow, measured breath. "You have the right to be wrong," I replied. "This is private property. You do not own it. You do not control it. Leave now." She ignored me, advancing further. That's when Titan stepped forward, his teeth bared, making it clear that my patience had run out. The group halted, fear finally creeping into their faces. I approached the nearest intruder and gestured toward the boundary markers. "Step back now." Karen attempted to argue again, but I had anticipated this. I picked up the radio and called the local sheriff's office. "I have multiple trespassers on private property," I explained calmly. "They're refusing to leave, and I need immediate assistance." Within minutes, patrol cars were en route. Meanwhile, Karen's group began to scatter, realizing that the authorities were taking this seriously. She tried to argue with the arriving deputies, but the law was on my side. Every trespassing step she and her entourage had taken was documented on my surveillance cameras, providing undeniable evidence. As the deputies escorted the HOA members off my property, Karen tried one last ploy. "You can't enforce this. HOA regulations." The lead deputy cut her off. "Ma'am, this is private property. HOA rules do not grant you the right to trespass. Any further attempts will result in charges." By midday, the situation was resolved. The intruders were gone, and my property was secure once more. I walked the boundaries, inspecting fences and gates, ensuring there was no lasting damage. Titan trotted beside me, satisfied that his job was complete. I made a few calls to neighbors, explaining the incident and reinforcing that my land was strictly off-limits. Karen's reputation as an overbearing, overreaching HOA member was already well known. But now, anyone considering following her lead would think twice. That evening, I sat on the porch, watching the sunset over my fields. The air smelled of fresh grass and earth, a reminder of the freedom and control that came with true ownership. No matter how persistent Karen or her HOA cronies were, they could never undermine that. My ranch, my rules, my security, untouchable. In the quiet of the dusk, I felt a sense of calm satisfaction. Today had tested my resolve, my patience, and my authority, but the outcome was unmistakable. Trespassing on my property was not just foolish. It was impossible to do without facing immediate, documented consequences. Karen had learned her lesson, though I suspected it wouldn't be the last time she tried. Still, one thing was certain. I would always be ready. My land was my domain, and no HOA member would ever dictate what happened here.